Hello and welcome back to the Greenhorn Photo Taker. Today is the day we finally reveal the top 10 hiking vistas in New Jersey. It has been a really great 4 months for me, trying to reacquaint myself with some old trails and also finding some new ones thanks to some new friends. But hiking as much as I can between April and now has been very rewarding. I'm so glad I did this. Part of me wanted to find a way to identify and trek up every single great vista point in New Jersey before coming up with this top 10 list. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought it really wasn't possible, and maybe more importantly, the timing was not exactly right. Autumn is approaching, and I really wanted to publish this list before autumn to give everyone a chance to at least plan to visit one or two or more of these wonderful vistas. And besides, even if I had hiked for another 6 months, I really don't think I could have safely said each vista was visited. So I can always add to the list at a point in the future. I will continue to hike, of course, and if I do find another great location, I will be sure to post about it. And one last point before we get to the methodology, I really love to rank things. And I think, in the immortal words of Ron Swanson, I think what you heard is that I really like to rank things, and what I want you to know is that I really like to rank things. As evidence, here is a spreadsheet that I have an ongoing tally of every great day on a road trip I've ever taken. Not just every great day, every single day. So each day is broken down into 15-minute increments and categorized into whether it was a great hike, great food, or a great scenic drive, or just simply a great destination. And then I have a whole bunch of formulas that brings everything back together and ranks each day accordingly. Probably a long-winded way of saying I don't take rank lists lightly, even though I can be accused of being a little clinical at times. Let's spend a moment on the rankings themselves. I basically categorized and analyzed each vista according to 10 pieces of criteria, 10 ranking options. And I think the simplest way to describe it is I came up with a base rating that is purely based upon the view itself. And then there are experience ratings that can move that base rating positive or negative depending upon the experience. I think the best way to do this is to look at Alamuchi State Park and the vista over Waterloo Village there, or over the Waterloo area there, to kind of describe what I mean. So bear with me, this is where the math comes in, but it won't take long. Here, the Overlook has a base rating of 7.5, and this is calculated using 3-factor scoring. For 1, what the actual view is, 2, how expansive the view is, and 3, within that field of view, how far can you see? So taking each one of those in order for a moment, the actual view, what I'm thinking there is there something specific to look at? Is there a mountain or a river or some type of specific view that makes it wonderful? How expansive the view is really just the field of view. Think of it as, this is what I do at the top of each mountain. Hold my arm up this way, and that's 90 degrees. No, straight out is 180 degrees. So I sit there on top of each vista and try to at least get a ballpark figure of how expansive the view is. The wider the view is, the better the view is. And finally, the range is the idea that within that field of view, how far in the distance can you see? Are you below the ridge lines that are in the distance and therefore you can't see as far? Or are you at High Point Monument, for instance, where you can literally see as far as the eye can? Each of these are scored by me on a scale of 1 to 10, and then I use a weighted average to come up with the base score. The highest weight goes to what the actual view is. That counts towards 50% of the base rating score, and then both the range and expansiveness count 25% each. Alamuchi scored 8, 6, and 6 respectively, and using maths, that weighted average comes out to 7.5 for the base rating. But as we all know, the enjoyment of a vista point is not specifically the view itself, or at least not only the view itself. So there are 7 other criteria that I categorized and analyzed each vista point with. The first is the level of obstruction within the field of view. For instance, is there a tree that blocks a good portion of the view that might detract from it? How about the intensity of man-made structures? Are there a lot of houses? Are there a lot of roads or highways? A lot of water towers or radio towers? Each obstruction, not that I counted them, can take away from that base score. Traffic noise is also a detriment. There's nothing better than being at a vista point where the only thing you can hear is the woods and animals that surround you. In New Jersey, that's very difficult. We are the most densely populated state in the area, or in the nation, I should say. So traffic noise is almost apparent in every vista. The higher the traffic noise, the more points are taken away from that base rating. Next is, what is the summit area itself? Can you walk around? Is there some, nice feature that makes it more interesting than just, say, an open field or an open area? The smaller and less interesting the summit, the more points are taken away. Next is the expected crowd level. This is a big one. We can't get away from crowds, or at least other hikers in New Jersey. But sometimes there are hiker crowds. I hate to be such an elitist, and sometimes there are non-hiker crowds. The non-hiker crowds don't always know the etiquette, don't always know how to act on trail, and that can really, lessen the experience for us. So if there is a place with a lot of non-hikers that can be a little, I hate to say, obnoxious, then you get points taken away. There are two other criteria that make up the enjoyment factor portion of the score, and they both have to do with the hike itself. So the first one is the simplest way to get to the summit. How difficult is it? If it's by car, then it's not difficult at all, and you get no bonus points. If it's up a very steep trail that causes a lot of effort and leg burn, you get more points for this one. And lastly, is there an elite hike you can include as part of this vista? For instance, one of my favorite places to be is Wyanokie High Point in Northern Green State Forest, and that can absolutely be included on a day hike with several awesome locations. That's something that hikers strive for, a 7 or 8 or 10 mile loop that has several interesting places to visit. So hopefully you can see a lot of thought went into this, and by breaking it out into base rating and enjoyment score, you can at least get an idea of what the view is itself, and then how I added or subtracted from that view score based upon the enjoyment. It'll give you the chance to do a little, quick math in your head, or at least quick calculations in your head to see if you want to visit a spot or not. One final point, linked above is a playlist of every one of these hikes I've done for the 15 locations that I visited. They each contain more detail than I'm going to go through here, so check out one of those videos if you want to know more. Okay, let's hit the list. Coming in at number 10 is Windbeam Mountain in Greenwood, New Jersey. I had never been here, and I think it punches slightly above its weight class because it is just frankly a really nice location and destination. There is little traffic, there is little crowds, there's a really exquisite view of the New York City skyline that I happened to see when a rainbow was coming out of the heavens right in front of me. So this might be a little bit of a nostalgic score, putting it in the top 10, but it really is a place that you should visit. The hike up itself is fairly challenging if you go the quickest way. It is pretty steep and pretty straight uphill. But overall, this is a must-do if you haven't tried it before. So get out and enjoy Windbeam Mountain in Greenwood. Number 9 is High Point Monument, at least the area around High Point Monument in High Point State Park in Wantage, New Jersey. And it is a great example of how that experience score can really lessen the enjoyment of one of these vistas. So High Point comes in with a base rating of 9.5, amongst the very best possible on this entire list. However, because you can drive there, and because of the types of this sounds so terrible, because of the types of visitors, often it is non-hiking families that can be pretty loud, which is perfectly fine for this area, right? It is not a vacation spot, but a tourist destination that there should be talking and having fun and playful, encounters. But that's not what most hikers are looking for. So when you go to High Point, you really have to remember that. You will not have this place to yourself. It's not even on trail. It is behind a 3-foot stone wall all around you. So it is not a quintessential deep woods hiking location by any means. However, putting all that aside, the views really are outstanding, and there's nowhere else in New Jersey that you can see as far in this 360-degree panoramic environment. Number 8 is one of my new favorites. It's Osio Rock in Northern Green State Forest, and this is in Bloomingdale, New Jersey. Now, Osio Rock has a better hike than a view. So the Torn Mountain and Osio Rock loop that you see in all trails, it's a must-do. I will now make this an annual pilgrimage. I really loved every aspect of this trail. Definitely do it. The view itself on Osio Rock is pretty darn good. You have probably the best view, the best trail view of New York City skyline that I've ever seen. And for the most part, there is very little man-made or human-made structures in the viewpoints. However, there are some blockages. You can't see into the valley because of some trees that are below you. The summit area is pretty small, but overall, this is a great spot to hike to, especially when you consider the hike itself. Number 7 was also new to me. It is Blue Mountain Vista on the Appalachian Trail in Stoke State Forest in Sandyston, New Jersey. This is one of the easiest hikes to get to if you're not including ones by car. A quick mile, maybe a mile and a half, walk up a dirt road or a woods road to the Appalachian Trail. The vista itself is really nice, not quite 180 degrees, but very open. You can see well into the distance, including High Point Monument. You can even see the tips of the Catskills. The real detriment is, just like Osio Rock, if you're looking into the valley, a lot of that is obstructed by trees. So you're looking over trees to see into the next ridge as opposed to looking into the valley and seeing the next ridge. That's really the only detriment. The minor flaws in terms of how easy the hike are, it really doesn't take too much away from it. It's more about the obstruction here. Number 6 is yet another place I had never been to, Horsepond Mountain in West Milford, New Jersey. Now, if I had chosen to use a tiered rating system, this is where the tier would clearly jump up. I believe Horsepond is better than the previous 3, and by a pretty significant margin. It's probably the first destination that I would also call special. It's so special, in fact, I gave the what is the view portion of the 3-factor rating a perfect 10. Looking over the Monksville Reservoir and into the surrounding ridgelines is what a trail vista should be. Really lovely. The only thing that really takes away from this vista is the expansiveness and the short field of view. It's only about 90 degrees, and it is one of those situations where your location is a little bit lower than the surrounding ridge lines, so you can't see over any ridge. What you see is what you get. Still, it is something magnificent that I will absolutely go back to this autumn. The hike itself is very easy too. Number 5 holds a very special, dear place in my heart, Wyanokie High Point in Northern Green State Forest in Greenwood, New Jersey. It is the location that got me into hiking in New Jersey. And from here on in, I would probably argue that depending upon what you're looking for in a vista, any one of these top 5 could be interchangeable. Wyanokie has a 3-factor score of 9, 10, and 8 for an average of 9, which is really, really good. And it offers 360-degree panoramic views of the Wyanokie Reservoir and New York City skyline. The summit area is on top of exposed bedrock with wonderful pitch pine trees and also scores a perfect 10. The only detractors are the crowds and a really unfortunate view of Route 287 and all the traffic that goes back and forth near Pompton Plains and the Wyanokie exit. Coming in at number 4 is Mount Tammany in Worthington State Forest in Knowlton Township, New Jersey. I now really wonder if this ranking of number 4 says more about me than it does about Mount Tammany. Simply stated, Mount Tammany, purely from a vista standpoint, is the best view in the state. You are looking down at the Delaware River as it winds through the Delaware Water Gap with Mount Mincy as the backdrop. On either side of Mount Mincy, you can see as far as the eye can see, and in summer months, there is often a cloud inversion which can really enhance your experience while sitting at the summit. However, until society fails and there's no longer electricity and no longer gasoline for cars and trucks, this view will always be hampered by the noise, the crowds, and the man-made structures. Route 80 is part of the view, and there is a constant high level of noise that you just can't get away from, almost for the entire hike up as well. There's graffiti at the summit, and often there is no chance of any portion of the hike to yourself. So if you do choose to go, and I highly recommend that you do, the hike is really difficult, but really fun. Go on a weekday morning as early as possible. Number 3 is Pinwheel Vista on top of way on the mountain in Vernon, New Jersey, also on the Appalachian Trail. And it's one of those locations that every New Jersey hiker knows because of the Stairway to Heaven, which is a really difficult section straight up a hill that is used to access the site itself. So the hike is challenging for sure, not as difficult as Tammany, but that one section is very notable due to the number of steps you have to take, basically where rocks were input into the hillside as steps. The view itself is very expansive. You can see very far into the distance, including the Catskills. One of the spots where you stand is probably my favorite single point to stand in the entire state. It is a lovely view looking south along the Wyanokie Ridge, where you can see the ridge and some distant focal points as well. So that's wonderful. The detriment is, and I didn't realize it until I was there a couple of weeks ago, there really are a lot of human-made structures. Route 94 is there. There's a lot of houses, a lot of farmland, a lot of other roads you can see as well. So it's not as isolated as some of the other hikes or vistas on this list. One final note here, if you do attempt this hike, make sure you park on Route 565 and include the Appalachian Trail boardwalk in the overall loop. It is well worth it. The boardwalk is pretty magical, especially if you have the right conditions of maybe a little fog, maybe like golden hour, or some type of atmosphere can really help that boardwalk look amazing. Okay, we're down to number 1 and number 2. Number 2 was a nice surprise for me. It is the Greenwood Lake Overlook in Abram S. Hewitt State Forest in West Milford, New Jersey. Actually, it's probably Hewitt, New Jersey. And I say it's a nice surprise. I absolutely love the large loop hike you can do here. It is probably the best hike in New Jersey with lots of changing terrain. You can see, the New York City skyline. You can see the lake. You can see deep forest. You have this backwoods feel to you. It's a wonderful and strenuous hike. Highly recommend it. So to have this Greenwood Lake Overlook come up number 2 makes me happy. The overlook itself sees you probably see the entire New Jersey view of the lake and then into New York as well. Behind some of the ridge lines to the east, you can see the tips of some New York City skyline. And overall, it is just a wonderful piece of land on top of this huge outcrop. I guess I'll call it bedrock. So the summit is a very unique area too. So check out Greenwood Lake, highly worth it, difficult hike, enjoy. And finally, I'm sure you already knew it, number 1 is Raccoon Ridge in Worthington State Forest on the Appalachian Trail in Knowlton Township, New Jersey. Also known as Mount Mohican and labeled on Google Maps as a large pile of rocks, no matter what you call it, I really think Raccoon Ridge is the single best trail vista in New Jersey. Why is that? There are several factors, but first and foremost, it is the only location with perfect 10s across the 3-factor scoring system. As a reminder, that is what you're looking at, how expansive the view is, and what the field of view is. Perfect 10s across the board. It does not get any better in New Jersey than Raccoon Ridge. Adding to that, there are very few man-made structures. There is absolutely no traffic noise. While there can be crowds there, they're all hikers. So you're surrounded by people that are like-minded and have the same values and etiquette systems that you do. So all around, it is a great, great, great place. I can't recommend it enough. It is the hawk watch season. So also, if you're gonna go try this, go try it on a Saturday, mid-morning to late afternoon when the hawk watch is there and they're counting and calling out various birds of prey. So if you're into that type of thing, hang out there, very welcoming, and they will enjoy talking to you and teaching you a little bit about what they say. The only downside is that it's easier than it should be to get there. It is a 6-mile loop if you go from the AMC Mohican Center, but the loop is not very strenuous and pretty tame. It's almost all entirely, no, it is all entirely on the Appalachian Trail, so it's a well-trodden and well-used loop. So I guess I feel the reward is too great for the effort it takes to get there. Thank you very much for watching. Remember, if you want more details, check out the playlist above. It'll have individual videos for each one of these locations, but more importantly, how does your rank differ? What did I get wrong? What did I get right? And please let me know if there are any locations I have not visited that I should. Get out and explore.